you can really tell when there's a lot of thought put into something. And I think when it comes to trade shows, it can never hurt to plan ahead and to be prepared.
I love bookkeeping.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the I Love Bookkeeping podcast. My name is Hannah Robinson.
And I'm Melissa Honan.
And thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss an episode out every Tuesday and Thursday. Today, we're going to be finishing our series on originality in business, and we're actually going to be talking about trade shows. I know that this is an introvert's worst nightmare, and so that's why we felt like maybe talking about trade shows would be a great thing to really help you guys navigate not only getting to trade shows, but getting the most out of them. Melissa, I know you go to a lot of trade shows.
Yeah, and it varies. We've had some years where we've tried out some new ones and we went to a lot more. But I think now we've kind of got it down to like our core group. So it's definitely something I love to do.
It's funny because I see our sponsors at our conference, BKX, and I try to put myself in their shoes. And when I thought about this episode, I was trying to really put myself in their shoes because they did such a fantastic job. And I think down the road, we're definitely going to interview our sponsors because they provided so much knowledge and they were so great with interactions. But let's be honest, this bookkeepers, I've found that the bookkeeping community, it can be a little bit introvert heavy, and that can be kind of intimidating. Is it ever intimidating for you?
Yeah, I definitely have my moments, but I also think it's going to be a little bit different than the vendors that we had. I agree. They did a fantastic job. But when we're going to an event to represent our bookkeeping business, it's going to be different because a lot of the vendors you typically see are selling a product, whereas we are selling a service. And so I think that there needs to be a different strategy and a little bit of, I think, more creativity in order to see a return on the investment that you're going to have at one of these events.
Well, and I think the first point of getting to a trade show is just making sure you're at the right one. I think it's probably better. Well, actually, this is an interesting thing to explore. Is it better to go to a few that are niched to your audience, or do you think it's better to go to as many as you possibly can and try to touch as many people as you possibly can?
I really think the niched ones have paid off better for us.
Right.
We do go to some of like the bigger events where there's a whole like expo floor and tons of vendors. And what I find is that we kind of get drowned in a sea of vendors, right? I still attend those events for the networking opportunities because what I like to do at those events is meet the other vendors that also work with my niche. And so I will typically at the bigger events spend my time meeting vendors rather than potential clients. I get to next to no return on investment from those big events.
Interesting.
Yeah, I really like the niched events where it's like 100 people or less, but they are my ideal clients. And those I get to be, I don't want to say like intimate, but you get to have a little bit more of like intimate conversations. Like they tend to have breakout groups. They tend to have, lunches and it's just one room and everybody's sitting at tables and meeting new people. And that's for me, I think my kind of like, golden window of opportunity at like the small trade shows.
And I'm glad I asked you that because in my head, I initially thought, well, for me, especially if you're a small business owner, I think it would be more beneficial to go to fewer, smaller, more niche trade shows versus going to bigger ones. Because I feel like you're going to have, just like you said, more authentic connection and more actual potential clients instead of just kind of reaching out to as many people as possible. It's like I feel like it's more of kind of that A to Z point of meeting somebody and making sure that they actually become a client versus just having somebody else kind of in your lead magnet.
For sure. And I also think like a point too is that when you go to bigger trade shows, you're also going to have lot of other companies that probably have a bigger budget and they have the shiny displays, the big fancy displays and the screens and the giveaways. And for those of you that are starting out, I don't put a lot of money into those types of things. You don't need to be a show because you're all about building relationships and providing a quality service. And so if you go to these smaller events, or if you do go to the bigger events, your biggest focus should just be in networking, in building relationships, and definitely have an idea in mind of like, how many clients would you need to offset the cost that you're putting into it, right? And then that should be your goal. And it's really, it's you against you, not really you against all these big flashy vendors. And just try to be authentic, and that will definitely show off. But I would, if you have limited funds, really find a completely niched event. And I've talked to a lot of people. I talked to Alyssa Lang about this. She went to an event. Turned out it was none of her ideal clients were there. It was like a total bait and switch. And so what she did was she pivoted and she started meeting other vendors, and now she has some referral partners. So, if you're going to new events you haven't been before, you do have to be flexible, because you might get there, realize it's not what you thought it was going to be, but you don't want to waste it. You want to pivot and figure out, okay, how can I make this work for me?
Yeah, I think one of the things with trade shows is that, especially if it's your first few trade shows that you're attending, I think you kind of have to maybe drop your expectations, because things might be a little different than what you expect. But what you just said about calculating how much you spent to actually make it to the trade show and figuring out how many clients you need to cover that cost, that is mind blowing to me that you just said that, because that's such a great end goal, and it's a tangible end goal for people to have in mind when they're going to a trade show and they're kind of thinking, how can this be worth it? It sounds so simple, but that was just so mind blowing to me what you just said.
Yeah, we're all about the finances, and I think that we want to be as conservative as possible in the beginning.
Yeah.
And always, honestly, especially if I'm going to get, the same results for less money, I'm going to go that route. Now, when we first started off, we always made sure that we were in Airbnbs, and maybe we would drive if it was within distance rather than fly coach or fly, Spirit or whatever. We're always minimizing food costs and things like that. And I would say now we're probably a little bit more flexible on that. Like, for instance, the last few we've stayed at the hotel, which is a little bit more expensive, but then it was easier because we didn't have to coordinate driving from an Airbnb to the hotel. There's some benefits to it, right? And so I think you got to figure out what the benefit is for you. But definitely just trying to minimize your costs. There's a lot of really great local places, or like Vistaprint, where you can get some signage that has coupons. Try to get signage that will never change. So it just has your logo on it. You don't have to put signage that has tons of your pricing or your packages, because let me tell you what, guys, that's going to change. Literally just about to change ours again. So don't try to really think long term. Anything that you're buying, can this be reused? Can I use it again? Can I use it in the background of internet marketing videos in addition to trade show, things like that, and just try to stretch your dollar as far as you can.
So I think, to shift gears just a little bit, for people who maybe are a little bit lost about how to go about trade shows, how to get the most of them, how to get the most interaction out of them. I think one of the first thing that comes to my mind when it comes to being a vendor, and as somebody who has been behind the table at a show, I think for me, one of the most important things is to be the one that reaches out and breaks the no contact, because it's so easy to let people walk by and kind of look at your table and not really have any interaction, or just smile at them because you think, oh, well, they don't want to come over here. What can I do for them? They're not interested. I think something that I had to learn as somebody who has been kind of behind the table and is nervous and shy, maybe, the worst that can happen is someone just walks away and says no and they kind of look like the asshole a little bit, not to name call. I think it's great to have people walk by and, if somebody looks at you or looks at your table or you even think they're in your vicinity, reach out, say, hey, how are you doing? And just kind of drop the idea that you need to be selling something and make your first point of contact really a relational one before you give out your information and take that opportunity to reach out and connect with people, because chances are someone's going to remember that more than you immediately spewing out what you're selling and who you are.
So true. And what you said, first of all, don't ever be sitting behind the table. And so if you're at one of your first trade shows, typically most trade shows are going to give you one table with like 2 chairs or something. And what I'm going to need you guys to do is push that table to the back of your space and put your chairs out front, because there's nothing more unapproachable than somebody sitting behind a table. That is just intimidating, right? And then it makes you feel closed off. It makes you like appear as if you're not, you're not interested. You got to get out in front of the table. If you need to sit, yes, but you really should be standing. And just like you said, Hannah, greeting people, say hi. Oh my God, I love your shoes. Like whatever it is, like you are literally like a Walmart greeter. Okay. Don't be like, oh, do you need bookkeeping services? Like, cause no, nobody will say yes. Just be approachable, smile, and also, if you don't have a lot of traffic, chat with the people in the booths next to you, right? And then just be there making friends, and what you do will naturally come up in conversation. I talked about this a little bit at BKX, like the vendors that are like sharks in the water, they drive people crazy, man. And every event I go to, I have people come in and sit at our table saying, oh my God, we're trying to get away from that table full of vendors that won't stop talking about their services. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm a vendor too, but I won't be weird. And then, it's kind of like, they're more willing to talk to you. Right. And then I'm like, well, I can't talk to you about that because I don't want you to leave my table. You can make jokes about it. Right. But it's so true. You don't want to be that person that doesn't actually care about humans on a human level.
I think something really important to remember when it comes to a trade show is that establishing a sale and then a relationship rarely ever leads, or I guess, let me rephrase, establishing a service and then forming a relationship rarely ever leads to a sale. It's establishing a relationship, then advertising your service. That usually leads to a sale, versus if you were to immediately kind of go into this pitch of this kind of like used car salesman. Sorry if anybody's a used car salesman, pitch about your product and then trying to like establish a relationship with people as your client. I found that if you try to establish that relationship first and then sell what you're selling, the chances of actually gaining a client or making a sale are so much higher.
Yes, for sure. I really like doing some type of giveaway if I can, if it's in your budget. But I really highly recommend not giving away your services for the same reason. Because, first of all, nobody wants it. Nobody wants a free consultation with a bookkeeping firm. Nobody wants, like a free $250 credit towards bookkeeping services. Like they really don't, because they don't know you yet. You haven't built that relationship yet, just like you're saying, Hannah. So I usually like to give away something like, a pair of headphones or, what did we give away once? We gave away Nerf guns. Like just fun stuff. I mean, read the room, of course, like depending on what your niche is. But what that does also is that they have to enter in their information. And then you get a bowl full of leads. So even if you're not able to convert any of those leads on the floor, because again, you're competing with 50, 100 vendors, depending on what kind of trade show you're at, it's in one ear, out the other. What you want to do is get their information so that you can put them into your lead funnel and really start to build a relationship after the event. Send them a thank you card for attending the event. Thank you for, entering in, although you didn't win, I really appreciate your interest, definitely, subscribe to our email list so you can learn more about the next thing that we do, whatever it would be. But think about how you're going to convert them into leads. And you might not close them on the sales floor, but you want to get as many people's information as possible. And a giveaway is a great way to do that.
Today's show is brought to you by Keeper, the one app to run your bookkeeping business. Keeper helps you get faster client responses with your own custom branded QuickBooks integrated client portal. Finally, you can say goodbye to those pesky spreadsheets full of uncategorized transactions. Keeper also helps you catch those embarrassing coding errors before your clients do. And with Keeper, you can generate beautiful custom reports that your clients will absolutely love to read. To find out more, go to keeper.app. That's keeper.app. Mention I Love Bookkeeping to get 20% off your first 3 months. Again, go to keeper.app to find out more. Thank you for listening.
Well, and I think a point you just made that I actually have written down here that's so important for trade shows is the follow-up. I think like the follow-up to meeting new people and establishing that relationship, I think that's one of the most important things you can do.
I mean, honestly, follow-up is literally the key to everything, guys. Like, we've talked about it before that your normal sales lead is going to say no 12 times before they say yes. But also that like, it's something like 86% of people go with the first vendor that reaches out to them. So it really, it just comes down to just being there and just being there and just being there and just be there authentically. It doesn't, again, we don't want to go with like the creepy salesperson vibe, but you're just there providing great information when they need it, when they might feel like they don't need it, and they will know that you're there. They will see that.
So let me ask you this. When you go to trade shows, what's a way that you set yourself apart?
Well, I talked about this a little bit on stage at BKX, and this is one of my favorite things to do. And so I started doing this a couple of years ago. I was going to an event last minute. My former business partner was supposed to be at this event. They couldn't travel because of COVID. And my former business partner had all of our signage. And it was going to be something like $800 to get the signage to me. And I was like, nah, like, not doing that. And so I was like, you know what? Like, that never really, I feel like, sets us apart anyway. You know what I think would be great? I'm going to bring my fireplace. And so I had a fireplace insert. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to create like a little, I'm going to grab some chairs and I'm going to tell people to come cozy up in like the bookkeeping lounge. And I wish I did have signage for it. But the first time, because I have since, people were kind of confused because I didn't have signage, what it was at first. But I did speak on stage for 15 minutes. So I did explain it to everyone like, hey, my signage didn't get here in time, but this is better. Come sit over at the bookkeeping lounge. And now I do that at every event. And what we do is like guerrilla marketing. Go around the hotel, grab some furniture. Sometimes we ask, sometimes we don't. And we just create like a cozy little sitting area with our signage. And we just say, hey, come and sit down with us. And it's so much better. I get such great feedback, but the conversations that I've had with people, because we're like sitting down in chairs, just one-on-one, kind of discussing that, like it, just talk about building relationships, man. It's really like a therapist couch. And so I absolutely love that. You guys can steal this unless your niche is painters. You guys can steal this, then don't. But it really, really does set us apart. And then the same thing, like I said, when I give things away, I don't give away our services anymore. I don't give away things that have to do with our services. I give away things that relate to what they do. Like we gave away a pair of, Bluetooth headphones because, guys love to listen to podcasts while they're painting. Things like that. That's, and say they have headphones, we mentioned like, hey, we know you probably have a pair of headphones, but do you have somebody on your crew that needs a new pair? We all know who needs a new pair of headphones. Like then you can take it back to your guys, give it to your guy, give it to your employee of the month, whatever it would be.
I love that. I love that you kind of cater your merch to your audience. And something that I think, and we talked about if you're on a smaller budget, I think it's still doable to have creative things that people can remember you by. And another thing that I like to stress about is that it's another point of contact. It's something that they can touch, that's tangible, that they can see your name, your business name, and your contact info they're constantly reminded of. So I think you can cheaply find pins, coasters, dress. Is it Christmas? It's okay. It sounded like a Christmas song. I think there's things that people hang on to: cups, stress balls, pins, coasters, more than just business cards, which I think everyone should have anyways. But a lot of the times business cards get lost. And when you have something creative, I think that it can be cheaply found. I think that's it's another point of contact, and it's another thing that somebody can remember you by. And that's ultimately kind of what you want.
Yes. And go to Etsy or go to Pinterest for this, right? Because honestly, it could just be like a little cellophane like bag of like a couple of little candies where you tie it in your company colors. Like, what is that going to be? Maybe $20, if you can make a few of those or something like that, and look on Pinterest and find those cute little sayings like they do for like things, it could be something like that. DIY it, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have a budget.
There's so many resources out there for ways to, if you're not creative, there are people out there who will be creative for you, and they will do it for a dime. Not literally,
so
but it's so doable to have something creative made for you.
And I will say for business cards, I have two sets of business cards. I have one that I made from mymetalbusinesscards.com. They are metal business cards etched in. They are fancy as hell. And they're heavy. But they're a conversation piece, right? And so especially, first of all, you're not just going to throw that in the trash. I spent money on it, but also I get to make a joke. I'm like, hey, have you ever found yourself needing to break into a door? That's what you can use my business card for. This is always a great opportunity for you. Anytime you need to break in somewhere. If you drop it on the floor, it makes a lot of noise. We'll definitely get a room going. So that's one thing. If you do want to have a physical business card that you give out, if you want to invest a little bit of money into it, they are such a conversation piece. Absolutely love it. mymetalbusinesscards.com. The second business card that I have is a dot card, which is like the RFID reader that also has a QR code on the back. What you just do is you tap it to somebody's phone, and your contact information pulls up automatically so they can save you as a contact. Then they don't have to worry about losing your business card. You're definitely going to be, easier to access it. You can connect it up to your website. You can connect it up to your social media. So they get all of your information just from, tapping your card to their phone.
That's so cool. That's just if you're listening, listen. This is another example of just how creative and how you can turn building relationships and finding clients into a conversation piece. Take it from Melissa. It's like, I'm thinking back to BKX, because if you're listening, we are fresh off of BKX right now. And
so fresh, so tired, so fresh.
One of the things that sticks out to me is a vendor that we had, or a sponsor that we had, and their little giveaway was the wipes that can clean off your phone, tablet, laptop, computer. That was the most helpful thing. I still have it in my purse.
No offense. It was literally the only one I kept. So initially,
me too.
Oh my God. So initially I told them, hey, it was like, we actually don't need a bag. Because, the way that we travel, I was like, I just don't need little things, right? So usually I never want anything in the bag. But Daniel went down, and I guess we weren't on the same page. He got a bag. And so I was going through the stuff, and I was like, nah, we don't need that. Yeah, we don't need that. Yeah, we don't. Oh, okay. I actually do need that because I lost mine. And so now I have it with my sunglasses. Absolutely love it. Shout out to the Workflow Queen, the queen of creative merch. Loving it.
Yeah. That's something that if you find something that people are never going to forget, I think that's a great way for people just to remember you. And so maybe they don't need your services now, but they might need them later. And guess what? Guess who they're going to remember? Because that little cloth is in your purse. I'm going to remember that because it's something that it's a way to establish a relationship, and it's just another point of contact. Even though it sounds frivolous, it sounds like, oh, well, I have to spend a lot of money and my budget's lower. It's like, no, you can find things that people still enjoy and people will remember you by, but it takes that extra effort. And I think that's another really good kind of point about trade shows is that it's a big effort. It's a big effort, especially if you're more of an introvert. It's a big effort. It's time, it's commitment, it's planning. And I think planning is probably one of the most important aspects of attending a trade show. And just being prepared and planning ahead of time. I think it never, I am a little bit of a procrastinator. But you can really tell when there's a lot of thought put into something. And I think when it comes to trade shows, it can never hurt to plan ahead and to be prepared.
That's so true. And in that planning ahead, definitely, before you sign up for a trade show, like research it, maybe talk to some other vendors that have been there to see if it is a right fit for you, and look to see if they already have another accounting services vendor that's going to be there. I'm not saying that you can't go if there is, but maybe if there's going to be one trade show that has 3 bookkeepers and one that has none, that might help you decide which one you want to go to. So definitely research the trade show itself, and then kind of get an idea from people that have already been there what it's going to be like, so you're a little bit more prepared. But again, like we mentioned, you might have to pivot. I'm always an advocate for just have next to no expectations for how things are going to go. But I think that's such a great point, Hannah, is to just be as prepared as you can. And just realize it's just a couple hours. Like if you're an introvert, it's just a couple hours. Like maybe block off a day or two after the trade show to just like sit in your Snuggie, but you could do it and the payoff could just be amazing.
So another kind of, it sounds frivolous, but it's not, question that Melissa and I love to discuss is what to wear. Because I feel like there's so many conflicting opinions about what to wear to a trade show. Like, do you think it's better to be overdressed or underdressed? And I feel like I have opinions about this, but I want to hear yours first.
I have so many opinions on this. I think it depends on your niche. So, like most of the trade shows that I go to, I got branded Lululemon. I literally bought some Align leggings and slapped my logo on them. And so I really kind of do like athleisure, and I have like a nice jacket and I'll wear sneakers, but like I work with painters, right? Like they're not wearing a 3-piece suit to a trade show. They're all in jeans and t-shirts anyway. And so what I do is I just brand it up. And I'm ready. And I always make a joke about how I got to have, I got to be ready for anything, got to jump up, get those tax deductions, like make it kind of silly. But most of the time I will wear athleisure. And if I do some of them, I will dress up, but I don't wear suits ever. If anything, I just dress stylishly in something that I feel comfortable in. So just comfortable, stylish. I think it really depends on your brand and your niche. I think you could be overdressed. Yeah. I think you could. I think if you showed up to a painting business trade show and you were in a suit, most people wouldn't talk to you. I don't think because that's the whole thing that I get so much good feedback from is that we're relatable. Like we're just real people. They feel like regular accountants talk down to them. And so I just go and I'm like, I'm just this like girl that does this stuff.
Does all the things.
I do all the things, sit down next to my fireplace.
I love that. And I think knowing your audience is probably one of the most important parts of dressing for trade shows.
So true.
I have made the mistake in the past of being overdressed for certain events. And it's always, I guess that can be one of the things that stick out about me, besides the fact that I'm 1,000,000 feet tall, is the fact that I'll have people come up to me and be like, wow, you're so dressed up. Why are you so dressed up? And it's like a constant question I get of like, oh my God, I'm underdressed. I'm like, no, look at everybody. I'm overdressed. I look ridiculous. But I think, knowing your audience and kind of knowing where you are and being aware of who is going to be attending the trade show and the other vendors involved, I think plays a huge part in what you should wear. But I know that you and I, guys, if you only knew how much Melissa and I talked about what we were going to wear to BKX, like we've been talking about that for months.
So long.
And
I changed it last minute.
I did too.
I did change it. Yeah.
We all did.
It was, and I did have multiple outfit changes, talking about being extra. And I would like show up and people were like, did you change your outfit? I'm like,
Maybe.
Yes, I did. This is my Super Bowl. I literally never get to wear anything cute, and I'm going to wear all of the things that I want to. So I had several outfit changes, and it was worth it. So again, just be you. If that's multiple outfit changes, if that's jeans and a t-shirt, know yourself, know your audience, dress accordingly. And I need to get this tattooed on my body. One of the best things, again, not to talk about her all the time, this isn't her podcast, but to talk about Alyssa Lang, is that she did say to me that she never remembers what anybody else is wearing. And just remember that if you're panicking, no one's going to remember what you're wearing. That is not like, we are much less important than anyone is. We're not going to be
when in doubt, no one cares is what we're saying.
When in doubt, no one cares. Like, it's so true though. Like, you might feel like it, and I do, and that's why I like to dress up. But at the end of the day, like, thinking back to BKX, I remember Hannah had the cutest outfit on with her grandmother's vintage scarf. I remember that. Like, I remember her, like, she was dressed exceptionally well. Everybody else completely forgot. Don't know what anybody else was wearing that day. And one girl had a Rothy's purse. That was it.
Oh, I knew you were jealous of that.
I was telling her about my Rothy's purse.
It's funny because I think that's more of a thing that women remember, versus men. But I think knowing your audience is super key. And again, guys, be comfortable. Don't learn from my mistakes. The second day of BKX, I took my shoes off and I didn't realize that my heel had been bleeding all day. And I had dry blood all over my shoes, trigger warning blood. But yeah, I dress for comfort, guys. Like, learn from my mistakes. Don't bleed all over your shoes and not recognize it and just walk around all day suffering. I'll never do that again. I take that back. I will do that again, but once a year, I'll suffer. We hope you have enjoyed this super informative episode on trade shows. We love hearing from you guys. We love hearing about your experiences, different trade shows that you go to. If you have comments, questions, concerns, tips, or you just want to talk to us, please shoot us an email at success@ilovebookkeeping.com. Again, that's success@ilovebookkeeping.com. My name is Hannah Robinson.
And I'm Melissa Honan.
And thank you for tuning in to the I Love Bookkeeping podcast. And don't forget to subscribe.
I love bookkeeping. Here's a little shout to all my friends working hard at keeping the books. You want to change